The exam TEF has 5 papers, but the exam TEF Canada, it has only 4. So we don't have this lexic structure test in our TEF Canada. Now let's go to the test, actually how the test looks like. So this is how the test looks like, the reading test. They give you a image and then you have to on peut trouver cette inscription dans. You can find this inscription in. So this is like parking, right, for handicapped people. So in view the street. This is a notice, right? On peut lire cette information. Where will you find this notice? Then the 4 options. So it starts with easy questions. So these are considered A1 questions. And then it gets difficult. If you see around that question number 10 or something, it starts getting a little difficult. But reading is probably the easiest part of the exam. And then sometimes I think they will also have passages. So they'll give you some letter or this is invitation card and then ask you some question, 3-4 questions on this. Then if I go a little downstairs, there will be a graph like this, not a graph, a statistical table, and then they'll ask you, for example, this looks like single people, married people, divorced people, male and female during the year 80, 90, 2000, whatever, right? So again, they'll ask you very simple questions like, in which year there were more married people than divorced people, in which decade, whatever, something like that. Good news is that you don't have to write the answers. Like in DELF exam, you have to actually write an answer. There are no options. So DELF is similar to this in a sense that they'll still give you this table, but they'll ask you a question and you have to write the complete sentence. The good news about TEF is that you don't have to write the sentence. So even if you are grammatically not so good, as long as you understand the context, you can still answer the ABCD. And that's why reading test is particularly much more easier. After some time, it will be just passages. So if you see for this, it will start, there's shitload of passages. Only problem is that it's like too many of them. Like I think in the end, you have to read like 10 passages and then they get bigger and bigger and they get difficult and difficult. Initially they are like small ones, which probably you can understand. And then if you go to question number, this is question number 22. If you go to question, let's say 30, the passage will be much longer. And they go longer and longer and they will become much more difficult to read.
Is it only one question per passage?
No. So if the passage is that big, right, you have 4 questions on that passage.
This we are talking about the online version, right?
It's the same. The format is same in the paper version also, but only instead of online, you'll get all those things in paper. That's all.
Okay, so it's not an adaptive kind of test, like based on your responses, the next question becomes.
Oh no. Pas du tout. No, not at all. No, it's a fixed thing. Basically there are how many questions? I think 60 or 50, right? Out of which 10 A1, 10 A2, then 10 will be B1, 10 B2. It's basically fairly distributed. Like all the levels are tested: A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. That's the beauty of it. So you cannot score.
Okay.
You cannot score really less because there will be plenty of questions which are at A1 level and A2 level also. So the only thing is to get to that B2 plus level, you'll have to answer at least 75% or 80% of the questions correctly. For example, this is one more pattern in the reading. So they have these 4 sentences. You have to put them in order. So it's basically a paragraph broken down into individual statements and you have to put them in order. Fairly simple because some indicators, like you will understand from logically that this cependant is however. You cannot start a paragraph with however, right? So there will be some context before however. So the 3 cannot be the first sentence of the para, right? So then what you do? I'll give you specific tips how to make quick decision. The whole problem with TEF is why it is so difficult as compared to DELF is the time. So you have to answer 50 questions in 60 minutes, okay? Which is not easy because some of the paragraphs are really difficult to understand and make sense of. So it's difficult. So that's why we'll have some shortcuts. We'll have some plans, tips, or strategies in place before we even go to exam. So that was your comprehension oral is listening. This is whole different ball game. Probably one of the difficult most exams in this step because of again how quickly it goes by. 40 minutes for 60 questions, and plenty of times they only play the audio for one time. So DELF B1 and B2, each audio is played at least two times in DELF, right? So first they play the audio, the conversation, you have to look at the questions, you can answer for 1 minute, and then they play it second time in Delph, and then you get 1 more minute to again read the questions and answers, right? So pretty easy, I would say. अगर पहली बार में नहीं समझा तो क्वेश्चन पढ़ने के बाद थोड़ा आइडिया आ जाता है, एंड देन सेकंड लिसनिंग में most of the time you get the answer. The problem here is majority of the clips will be played only once. Some of them will be played twice, very few of them, but most of them will be played only once. And unfortunately the exam is continuous for 40 minutes. So like they play a clip, they give you like 30 seconds to answer, they play the next clip. So it's pretty like the concentration levels have to be maintained for the whole 40 minutes a lot, and then that's why it's a little tough, much more tougher than Delph.
Do we get headphones or like is it played on a speaker?
So that's where you have to choose the ETEF. You should take the exam as you should not take the paper based TEF. You should always take the ETEF, right? In ETEF, it's very similar to what you are looking at here. Okay, so it's just like they play the audio for you, and then you can just mark it, click it, which is much more simpler thing to do. And also you get the headphones, as you correctly mentioned. So it's so much. And we'll practice strategies for listening test specifically when you guys are at B1 level. Expression écrit, which is pretty difficult, is the written test. And the first thing that you have is they give you this small article. So what is this? It's a newspaper story, right? It's a newspaper story. They'll give you the first two lines of the story, and then you have to imagine and complete the rest of the story. What you need to write is 80 words extra apart from this, but usually you should write about 100, 100 and 120. I used to write about somewhere between 100 and 120, right? For example, here, Maggie Feng, une jeune Australienne de 19 ans, a décidé de faire le tour du monde à pied pour une bonne cause. À sa grande surprise, elle a reçu le soutien de milliers de personnes à travers le monde. Okay, so you kind of understood it. This is easy one, but there are pretty tricky one in the exam. This girl did a world tour. APA means chalte chalte, and to her surprise, she received a lot of support. Now you have to complete this story by adding at least 80 words extra. Okay. So here, if you see, what's the tense? A décidé, passé composé, right? A reçu, passé composé, right? So this is passé composé. So you have to stick to the tense in the story. So once you identify the tense, you still have to complete the entire story in past tense. So most likely the stories are in past tense. This first one, okay? The biggest obstacle in this assignment is the imagination. Like you have to imagine and write, and you get 20 minutes to do this, but 10-15 minutes तो सोचने में ही चले जाते. And then if you take too much time, then you don't have enough time to write, and because it's so less time to write, you commit shitload of mistakes. So I had some expressions ready with me in past tense. Okay, so I was like, I know that story could be anything, and I know that I will take at least 5 to 10 minutes to plan, to think. So once I finish that, right, I have only about 10 minutes to write. And in that 10 minutes, I don't want to make any mistakes. So I had these expressions ready that helped me in that. It's difficult to completely explain it, but when the time is correct, I will also, we'll also learn how to crack this test with my, experiences and expertise. The second one is it's a letter. You have to write a letter about social issue, right? Something like that. They give you a proposition. La publicité à la télévision nuit à la qualité des programmes. Il faut l'interdire. So the advertisements that are shown at night on television, it's killing the quality of programs. They must be banned, right? So you have to make an argument about this, and you have to write a letter to editor or somebody. So this is how that letter looks like, and there are plenty of techniques and templates that I had developed to make most of this. This is a little long. You have to write at least 300 words, which is about one page. This particular website or the course is very useful in a sense that they give you corrections. They give you this particular answer that was submitted. This was the original answer written by a student. What level it will get. So they give it. I think they gave it B1, right? Because and then they explain to you why this particular answer was given B1, and then they give you how it should have been written instead. So they correct it, stuff like that.
Okay, and what about this website on this in this mock exam?
Oh, it's immediate. Like, oh, by the way, they don't correct your letters. I mean, no, they don't. Uh, the mock test, they what they do is that, like for example, let's say this, right? The second mock test, an expression écrite. Okay, so they give you a model answer, something like that. But yeah, they don't correct your thing. But if you stick around with me, you'll have a teacher to correct your responses.
So, Kaustubh, you said when we were looking at the letter, you said a student submitted this.
No, that is
and they
pre-compiled. Like they will not correct your copy of that letter. That's what I'm saying. The last important part is speaking, right? So it's called as expression orale. Okay, it has two sections. First part is you have to speak for 5 minutes. It's basically you see an advertisement and you have to call this company and you have to ask questions about the advertisements. So you have to ask 10 questions minimum. You have to speak for 5 minutes. It's also a conversation and it is formal conversation. So you have to use inversion. Pouvez-vous, avez-vous, all that inversion stuff that we have studied. So there is a contact number mentioned here. They give you like 1 minute. That's the most terrible part about this exam. In Delft B2, they give you 10 minutes for preparation. Here you get 1 minute of preparation. So you have to look at this and note down few things in your mind or if there's a paper available, and then you have to start a conversation with the examiner. You have to ask about minimum 10 to 12 questions, and all of these questions have to be in a formal conversation. So basically you have to use inversion. Pouvez-vous me dire quel est le tarif, something like that. So I will definitely do practice of this. So that's the first part, which is about you have to speak for 5 minutes. Second part, they again give you some pamphlet or something like that. Okay, vous avez vu cette annonce, you have read this advertisement pour du bénévolat, for volunteering. Vous en parlez à ami, you are talking to a friend. Présentez-lui ce document, tell him about this document. Essayez de la convaincre de participer à cet événement. Try to convince him to participate in this event. This is all you read in the exam. That's all. They give you 1 minute for preparation. You can look at this thing in 1 minute, note down something or make up your mind, and the teacher starts the conversation in 1 minute. Now this is where you have to talk in informal manner. So you have to convince your friend, whether it's about joining a gym or doing some volunteer activities, or in this case, celebrating New Year in Amazon or something. So you have to convince your friend, which is the examiner, to do some activity like this, okay? And you have to speak for 10 minutes in this conversation. You get 1 minute for preparation, which is really tough, and speak for 10 minutes. Here, you have to use informal tone. That means you can basically tutoyer with the examiner. So that's the spoken test.
So both of these activities are going to be dialogue, not monologues, right?
No monologue.
Question answer.
Both dialogues, okay. Yeah.
So, Kaustubh, while we are conversing with the examiner, so is this sheet, like, does it disappear or it is still there?
No. It's a paper. So yeah, it stays with you. You can look at it while you're talking. Yeah, that's true.
How long we have to speak?
10 minutes.
For 10 minutes. Is it timed?
Yes, they record your time. How much did you speak? I mean, you can finish in 4 minutes and look at the pankha, but in that, they will also notice that they record it basically. They record the whole conversation. So the recording will have time.
Only you are speaking or both? It's a conversation.
It's a conversation. Yeah, the examiner also speaking, but then again, they will not speak that much, right? So they will only play their part, but they will make you speak more, obviously. Yeah, I practiced a lot, created a lot of templates. You should go prepared. So exam specific preparation is very important in last 1 month. Otherwise, it becomes extremely difficult. And it's really tough to speak for 10 minutes, to be honest. मेरा जो first attempt था in Chandigarh, I think I spoke for 7 minutes. I think that was the reason why I got CLB 6 and not CLB 7. I fell short by like 30-40 points.
Speaking test is only for 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's total for 15 minutes, but then थोड़ा सा formalities होती है and the preparation time 2 minute का. So it goes about 20-25 minutes.